So what's a meal prep without going to the grocery store? So I wanted to show you guys my trip to Trader Joe's. I usually plan out my grocery shopping list before I go, and then I will kind of go off the list, but then sometimes, you know, if there's something I see that I want, obviously I'll get that too. But I went on Saturday evening instead of Sunday this time, which I went on Sunday and it was a really big mistake. Saturday was also surprisingly busy, so good for you, Trader Joe's. But I got a ton of fresh stuff, and they really were stocked up on everything. Sometimes at the regular grocery store, a lot of things are picked over, but not at Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's is about 25 minutes for me, so it's a little bit of a drive, but honestly, I spend less money when I go there, so I keep going back. I mean, anything from the fresh produce to their meats or anything, I spend less money overall when I go there. So take a look at some of the stuff I put in my cart. I was honestly really surprised that olive oil was like $3.50. So all this stuff is going to be in the meal prep for the most part. Oh yeah, that peanut butter though. Let's see, tater tots, not in the video, but of course they're in my cart. They're so delicious. And this popcorn with herbs and spices, heck yeah, you gotta buy that. So that's it. It's a shortened version. I didn't show everything, especially not the checkout. But then there's me putting my cart back. And I wanted to show you guys the Christmas lights that I saw because they were so pretty. I was driving along and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta take a picture of that. So, and then I spent overall the $84. So the first protein I'll show you how to make is going to be this shredded chicken. It's super easy. I make it with chicken thighs and I put it in the crock pot. So I'm actually going to start making this, and then we're going to come back and check on it after I do a whole bunch of other meal prep stuff. So right now I'm just opening up the chicken thighs and putting them skin side up. So basically I'm just going to put this taco seasoning from Trader Joe's on the top of it, and then I'm going to flip them over, and then I'm going to put the taco seasoning on the bottom as well. You want these super flavorful, right? And then I'm going to add some water. You could also add chicken stock. I just didn't have any. Normally I would use chicken stock, but then basically I'm just going to put that on there. The water just makes it so that it doesn't get super dried out. But I'm going to set this for 4 hours, and it'll really probably only take about 2 hours. So we'll check on it in a little bit. So the next thing we're going to make is going to be a marinade for the tofu and the pork. It's going to be a Korean style marinade, and it's so delicious. So we're going to do 2 tablespoons of this soy sauce, and then we're going to do 2 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar. Then after that, you may not have used this before, but it's called gochujang. It is a spicy pepper paste, and you can buy it at the grocery store in the international food aisle. It took me a little while to find it the very first time that I was looking for it, but it is right there. So it's going to be 2 tablespoons of that as well. This bottle was almost empty, so it was giving me some trouble. And then I use actually powdered garlic and powdered onion, but you could totally use half an onion and a few cloves of garlic if you want, but I did like 1 teaspoon of garlic powder and 1/2 tablespoon of onion powder. And then I am using some red chili flake because I like it a little bit spicy. If you don't like that, you can always leave it out, but then add some sweetness. So we're going to add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar as well. And then I just add a tiny bit of sesame oil. I honestly think it's a really powerful flavor. And then I put this all in my Ninja blender just to make sure that it's all incorporated really well. The next thing I'm going to do is prepare the pork tenderloin. So I have 2 tenderloins here, and the first thing you want to look for is the silver skin, because you actually want to remove that because it's not edible. So it just looks like this kind of skin-like thing. It is silver in color, so it's pretty easy to find. And then if you want to trim off any of the other fat or anything, you can totally do that as well. Just go along as closely to the skin as you can. And then what I'm going to do is just chop it up in really fine pieces. So each one is like maybe a 1/4 inch thick. And I'm just going to do that for the entire tenderloin. And I actually have 2 tenderloins. I'm not going to show both, but I did do both. So then after that, the next thing I'm going to move on to is the tofu. So this is extra firm tofu, and all I did was just drain it from the water, and then I just dried it off with some paper towels and kind of squeezed some of the water out. and I'm just cutting it into fourths here. So I cut it in strips and then cut it into fourths after that. And then next, I'm just gonna add in the marinade itself. And then I grabbed a fork and kind of pushed it around, but you can totally use your hands as well, because I was like, okay, this fork isn't doing its job. So clean hands is probably the easiest way to do this, honestly. Or you could put the lid on and shake it up, either way, if you don't want to get your hands dirty. But then I'm just gonna go ahead and put the lids on these too, and then I'm gonna let them sit in the fridge for at least an hour before I cook them. So we're gonna move on to the pesto chicken. So I actually used the grill for this one, but you could totally just use the oven or the stove top. So I just turned the grill on to about half heat, which is gonna heat up to about 375 to 400 degrees. And then next I'm gonna make the spices that I put on the actual chicken itself. So I did a teaspoon of salt, about a teaspoon of this pepper. It's eyeballed because it's a grater. But then I used a teaspoon of garlic powder and a teaspoon of onion powder. It was almost out, so it's about a teaspoon. And then I also did a teaspoon of the oregano as well. So you can totally use fresh herbs, but sometimes fresh herbs burn. That's really the reason that I use the dried herbs for this. So just kind of mix that around. And then you're gonna grab some chicken breast. That's what I use, but you could totally use any other chicken that you want, or any other kind of protein that you want. Tofu, you could totally do this as well. But they actually were thinner than I thought they were gonna be. They're like thin cutlets that I got at Trader Joe's. But basically, I'm just gonna go ahead and line a pan with tinfoil because I want this to be something that I can easily just throw away, and then I don't have to clean the pan before I put the cooked chicken in it. You just don't want to have any cross-contamination, so that's why I put the tinfoil in there, and then I just take it out after I grill them. So I'm just covering all of these with the spice mixture on both sides. You don't really have to add any olive oil or anything because you're going to put it on the grill. So here's the grill preheated to 400 degrees, and then I'm just going to pop them on there. These are super thin, so they don't take very much time. I would probably say 2 to 3 minutes max, maybe longer if your grill's not as hot, but it's gonna get cooked really quickly. And we wanna keep this nice and juicy, so you just wanna not cook them for too long. And then, so basically everything's done. So now I'm gonna put the pesto on. You actually don't wanna ever cook pesto because it gets really bitter in flavor, so you want to put it on after. So I covered half the chicken with pesto, and the other half I'm going to keep for salads. So next I'm making some hard-boiled eggs. I like these for breakfast, for snacks, sometimes to put on salads, but I'll just put 6 in there, and then I'll put some water on top of them. I just put water in until it just covers the eggs, and then I'll put it back on the stove top. So, and then I'll put it on medium-high heat, and then put the lid on. So I'll make the ice bath really pretty close to whenever I'm going to take the eggs out to stop the cooking process. So once it starts to boil, I'm going to take the lid off and then let them boil in there for 8 minutes. That's going to cook the yolk pretty much all the way through. And then my ice melted, so you'll see there's no ice, but if you make it closer to when you're going to take them out, the ice will still be in there. But again, this just stops the cooking process of the eggs, so you just want to make sure that you do have an ice bath. So I keep them in there for a little while, and then I'm going to peel them. So the easiest thing that I find to do is just to kind of tap them and rotate them on a cutting board or on the counter itself, and then I'll just take the shell off, and then I'm gonna try this, and they taste really good actually. So then I'm just gonna go ahead and peel the rest of these, and then I like to keep them in the fridge in just a glass Tupperware container, then they won't smell or anything like that. So here's me peeling the rest of them. So our tofu and pork is now marinated. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this pan on medium-high heat, and we're gonna cook all the tofu and then all the pork. So I just add a little bit of olive oil once the pan is hot enough. I kind of wiggle that around, and then I'm gonna put the tofu in here. You do wanna make sure that it sizzles when you put it in there, or it's just not hot enough. So as it cooks, I'm just gonna kind of twirl it around here, and it should start to get caramelized because of that brown sugar that's in it. So once it's done, probably like at least 5 to 7 minutes, you're gonna just put it in a bowl so that it can cool. And then I went ahead and made the pork too. So you're not gonna be able to make all the pork at once. I just do a little bit like layers at a time. You don't have to put these in with your hands. I would probably recommend using a fork or tongs, but I've done this so many times that I just put them in with my hands. And then you kind of wanna look for the white edges because that means that the bottom side is cooked. So it's probably gonna take at least like 2 to 3 minutes on each side. You really want these to be brown, so you can literally wait longer than that for the caramelization to happen. And then that's what it'll look like on the plate itself. So then I did another batch, and then I'll keep doing that until they're all the way finished. Next, I'm gonna make some pasta. Of course, everyone's favorite. So I add this into some boiling water that's salted, and I'm just gonna mix it around, and then it's probably gonna take about 9 to 11 minutes, but this is me straining it out. You never wanna rinse your pasta. Do not rinse the pasta. And then I'm gonna add some olive oil. And this is cacio e pepe, so I'm gonna add some salt, about a teaspoon, and a lot of black pepper. Cacio e pepe just means cheese and pepper. So I'm gonna use just freshly grated pepper, and I'm also going to use some Parmesan cheese, and I'm just grating a ton of that in there. And then I'm gonna mix it around. Parmesan cheese melts pretty easily, so if you mix it around for about 30 seconds to a minute, it's gonna melt nicely. And then if you feel like you need some more, you can always, of course, add some more. And then I took a bite to taste it, and then you kind of know if you need to add some more seasoning or anything, but I liked it. Why buy a vinaigrette when they're super easy to make? So I just did a 1/4 cup of white wine vinegar, about a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, a 1/4 cup of olive oil, and then 2 tablespoons of honey. I also did some salt and pepper. I think I did about a 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. You can kind of like eyeball it and then decide if you like it or not by tasting it, but I just put it in one of these containers so I can easily shake it to emulsify it, and then you can put it on any salads that you make for the week. Time to check on the chicken. So it's been about 2 hours, and it's already all the way done. So I kind of poked at it, and it does have a little bit of give, so it means it's gonna be nice and juicy. So here they are, nice and finished. I can't wait to shred this up. So all I do is shred this up with a fork, or you can shred it up with your hand. You just wanna make sure it's cooled, and there it is. So all the ingredients are made, and it's time to make some meals. The first thing I'm gonna make is the broccoli, the cacio e pepe, and the pesto chicken. So I'm just gonna make some steamed bag broccoli here for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And then I'm just gonna make my plate because that's just how simple it is when everything's already made. Next, I'm gonna make broccoli, tofu, and rice. So I made my rice in the rice cooker, but I'll show you what rice you can also buy if you wanna buy the kind that only takes a minute or 3 minutes. So I just put my rice in the rice cooker, and it takes about 30 to 40 minutes, but you can totally buy this 3-minute brown rice at Trader Joe's or 1-minute versions as well. So I just top mine with sesame seeds, and that's it. Now to make my own version of kind of a burrito bowl. So all the ingredients are here laid out that I'm gonna use. But first I'm just gonna use some spring bag lettuce. I used some 1-minute version of rice there. And then I used the chicken that I made. And then some other ingredients, some salsa, cheese, and guacamole. Now for the salad with the pesto chicken. Another way you can use that pesto chicken. So I just used spring mix, some of the dressing that we made, and then just topped it off with some chicken and cheese and tomatoes. Really easy, really fresh. You could have this on the side of something else too. Now to make some adult snack packs, which are my favorite. So I used some Granny Smith apples, just like a small snack size apple, and cut those up. You could use any apples you want, any fruits that you want, but I'm gonna make those first. And then I take one of the eggs that we made and chop that up as well. I just have these little bento box snack pack things that are perfect for making this kind of stuff. I put the little guacamole pack in there, and then put the apples in as well. And then I also have some baby carrots that I'm gonna put in there too. And so I love dipping my carrots in guacamole. It's literally so awesome. So it's a perfect little snack, just right for any time of day. Breakfast is usually super quick for me, so I usually get these Vans Power Grains waffles and top them with peanut butter, and then I'll have a little Greek yogurt cup with blueberries. That's the easiest thing that I found for myself. For a sweet snack, I grabbed some Fig Newtons, one of these Outshine watermelon bars, or a Halo Top little scoop of that ice cream. I mean, everybody's gotta have a treat sometime. If I feel like I need some extra greens, I'll just have this light, lower sugar orange juice that only has 11 grams of sugar. And then I will have some of this amazing grass green superfood. I'll just mix that together because it's like berry flavor, and I'll mix it together with this whisk.